Hey everyone, and welcome to What Did I Miss, where today I'm going to be going over a theory I have about the future of Star Trek over the next couple of years, and how everything is leading towards a huge time travel event that will see various members of our favorite crews interact. With 5 series and a new movie in some state of production at the time of writing this video, the Star Trek franchise has never seemed more vibrant, with all the exciting possibilities planned for the near future. While the COVID crisis has delayed our expectations a bit, recent news and leaked details about upcoming projects have rejuvenated interest in these series, and fans are eager to see their favorite crews on screen again. Even executive producers and writers of the franchise, Alex Kurtzman, Akiva Goldsman, and Michelle Paradise, have been leaving subtle hints in interviews that there is something very big on the horizon for the franchise. By studying this news for the past 6 months after releasing various videos about it, I think that I have cracked the data encryption about the plans for the franchise, which will include a huge crossover that may end up playing out like an Avengers-style endgame event in the upcoming feature film. I also believe that time travel will be a major component of the storyline, and this will allow for characters from every iteration of Star Trek from the past and present to interact in some way. Here I will go over my theory, but this is always more fun when I hear from you, so let me know in the comments what you think of this and if you have any theories of your own. If you love Star Trek like I do, and remember I'm still just plain and simple Eric, you can help out the channel a lot by hitting that like button and subscribing for new videos. First, let's look at the beginning of this era of Star Trek, as I believe a big clue actually lies there. In 2018, after the first season of Star Trek Discovery had aired with Alex Kurtzman as the creator, writer, and showrunner, he signed a 5-year deal with CBS to further develop the Star Trek franchise. The actual expectations behind the deal were kind of nebulous, as the press release simply stated that Kurtzman would oversee the development of new series, miniseries, and other content, including animation. Soon after this was announced, the Picard series was also put into production, as well as the second season of Discovery. If you remember, the second season of Discovery is when Captain Pike, played by Anson Mount, and Lieutenant Spock, played by Ethan Peck, were featured throughout the season, and who were then given their own series, Strange New Worlds. He has continued developing the franchise with 3 additional series, the first being Star Trek Picard, as well as the animated series Star Trek Lower Decks, which was given a 2-season order, and another animated series that has not yet aired, Star Trek Prodigy, which also has started with a 2-season order. Now I'm sure these are details you already know if you're watching this video, but I'm stating them now because the timeline actually has a lot to do with my theory. 2020 was a difficult year for all of us, but Star Trek was able to air 3 seasons of new content, which helped us all get through it. First was the new season of Star Trek Picard that included appearances from former Enterprise crew members Jonathan Frakes and Marina Sirtis, but also included the character 7 of 9, played by Jeri Ryan. While the Borg plot was prevalent, it really was sort of a B-plot to the android rights storyline that ended with Picard himself dying and becoming an android. The series could have put anyone or any race in that plot, but they chose the Borg because of their significance to Picard, but also to include Seven, who of course first appeared on Star Trek Voyager. If you think about it, Seven is not vital to the first season of Picard, and Worf or even Hugh could have subbed in for most of her parts. But I think including Seven was another way to cross over a cast member from another crew with the crew of this show, similar to how Pike and Spock were added to Discovery's second season. Speaking of Discovery, the 3rd season of the show saw the crew time travel to the 32nd century, and you would think that there's no way to cross over with any other crew now, as they are hundreds of years away from anything canon in Star Trek. But you have to remember the B plotline again that is hanging around from the beginning of the season with Philippa Georgiou. She seems to only show up when she needs to until the middle of the season and the 2-part episode Terra Firma. In that episode, not only do we get 1 but 2 huge plot devices from the lore of Star Trek, with the inclusion of the Guardian of Forever, as well as the Mirror Universe. Also, just before this episode, we get our first confirmation that the Kelvin timeline is canon, when it is also referenced in the season. At the end of the 2-part episode, Georgiou leaves the ship and the show, and we are not told where or when she was transported to. Let's also not forget that we have a crossover event in the animated series Lower Decks, as Captain Riker appears in the season finale, and it has been confirmed that he will once again reprise the voice of the character for the show in at least the first episode. John Delancey also reprised his voice as Q, which means the character appeared in 4 and soon to be 5 Star Trek series, making him the most crossed over guest star character in the Star Trek franchise. 2020 is also when Strange New Worlds and Prodigy were announced as officially going to series, with both casts including characters that have been featured in prior series. Now we come to 2021, and this is where I think things will really start to get interesting. The year started out slow with all the series trying to get back into production, but at the first Contact Day event in April is when Star Trek fans were treated to a lot of news, specifically with the series Star Trek Picard and the very intriguing teaser that was released for the upcoming season. Now, I did a video on all the Easter eggs and references in that teaser, and I will link it here if you would like to watch it. And there I already started to hypothesize about this theory. The teaser revealed the inclusion of Q into the upcoming season, and this was later verified throughout the day. But the teaser also included many relics from Star Trek's past, and all of them curiously did not include Picard. The biggest was the Reckoning tablet, which was shown in a prior Star Trek series but not the Next Generation, rather Deep Space Nine. Again, I go into the artifact a lot more in my video about the teaser, but basically, it's a tablet that was broken by Benjamin Sisko, played by Avery Brooks, and he released a good and evil spirit known as the Prophets and Pa Race. What's interesting is that in an episode, there was a battle between the two that basically ended as a draw, because a character named Kai Wynn did something horrible like she always does, so the spirits released from the tablet are still out in the cosmos somewhere as far as we know. Having an artifact from the past of another series feature so prominently in a teaser is a big hint this will be a big part of the future of this show and perhaps the franchise. Besides the teaser, we also got word of a new movie being written, and soon later we were given a release date. Coincidentally, the release date of the movie is 2023, which is 5 years after Kurtzman signed his 5-year deal in 2018. Also, the writer of the movie is Kalinda Vasquez, who also wrote the screenplay for the second part of the crossover Discovery episode I mentioned earlier, Terra Firma. Now, how does this all tie together? Well, it seems like at every turn since Kurtzman signed his new deal, he has been integrating new aspects of the Star Trek franchise with the DNA of established characters in canon. As you probably can tell now from my rundown, every series that he has touched has crossed over with something from the established history of Trek. Also, each of these threads is left open, such as the crew of the Enterprise now getting their own adventure in Strange New Worlds, 7 of 9 showing up on Picard and staying on the series, and Giorgio being transported into some other place that the audience is not told the whereabouts. While the first season of Picard did not really deal with time travel, although we were shown events that happened prior to the events of the series through flashback and a short trek, we already know that the second will, and this has further been confirmed by some leaked photos that were released by Trek Culture. In these photos, we see Raffi, played by Michelle Hurd, and Seven on a city bus, and this is obviously in the past. If we try and decipher what year this is, I honestly think this is the year 2022, which is the year the episode is likely to air. There is not much that is canon around this time in the lore of Star Trek, which does allow for the writers to have a lot of creative flexibility, which is also the reason they took the Discovery out of their current timeline and flung them almost 1,000 years away. The Third World War is destined to occur in 2026 on Earth, which does not look to have occurred yet in the photo. And there's also an ad on the side of the bus for an interplanetary mission with an XCV-style ship to Europa, which is a moon of Jupiter. The clothes that Seven are wearing also look similar in style to the one seen in the Deep Space Nine episode Past Tense that dealt with 3 members of the crew traveling back in time to 2024. The fact that we do not see her with any implants on her face may also be a hint as to the type of time travel that was involved. If you look back on Past Tense, Jadzia Dax, played by Terry Farrell, still had her trill spots when she traveled, so her appearance was not changed for the viewer or for the people that could see her within the episodes. When Q sent Picard back in time to relive his glory days in the episode Tapestry, Picard looked the same to the viewer, but to everyone around him he was a 20-something ensign. But when the Guardian Forever sent Giorgio back in time and across dimensions to the Mirror Universe, her appearance was changed for the viewer and the people around her, which may be a hint that the Guardian of Forever is responsible for this time travel as well. Also, the fact that the bus has an ad for an early Earth interplanetary mission may mean that we'll also see the beginnings of the Federation. There has been a lot of rumors over the past few months that Scott Bakula as Jonathan Archer will be returning to the franchise in some way, and at the time I assumed it would be on Strange New Worlds, but if time travel is involved, Archer could show up anywhere and at any time. See, I think what Star Trek is working towards is an adventure that will include each of the captains of the series and will span hundreds of years. Sort of like how Marvel slowly worked towards a movie that included all of their live-action characters that ended in the movie Endgame. I think Star Trek is using the captains instead of Infinity Stones as a force to bring all these series together. Even Alex Kurtzman has said in interviews that they are blurring the line between the movie and the series and they will all be interconnected. So if you need any more proof, take it from the man himself. I believe that the movie will be the final act for the story and will also be the final performance of Sir Patrick Stewart as Picard. The Reckoning Tablet calls back to the fight between good and evil, and as I said, those spirits are still out there. So this could have something to do with those spirits being released and possibly include members of the Deep Space Nine cast like Avery Brooks, Nana Visitor, or Sarah Lofton. This would also allow the writers to give Sisko a proper ending, since many fans are still wondering what happened to the former captain of the Defiant. But what I think is more likely is that Picard, as well as other former and current cast members, will get the chance to actually change the past, similar to the episode Tapestry that I mentioned earlier. Perhaps this will be a deconstruction of the classic It's a Wonderful Life tale, in which Picard and others actually have to change things in the past to correct the future. We have seen the future has gotten pretty jacked up since Voyager returned to the Alpha Quadrant with the attack on Mars and then later the burn, so perhaps we will learn that these events were part of a bigger evil plan that our heroes will have to fight against. If you're thinking to yourself, they're never going to do a crossover in a movie, Well, they already have, and they have done it more than once. Most recently, we had two versions of Spock in the film universe, as both the OG Leonard Nimoy and Zachary Quinto were members of the Kelvin timeline. Also, the purpose of the movie Generations was to coalesce fans of the original series with the new one, and having a crossover event like this with these crews may quiet some of the vitriol that is prevalent in regards to the newer series. If you don't think that is what they were doing with that movie, why do you think they named it Star Trek Generations? That is about as on the nose as it would be calling the new movie Star Trek Discoveries. But that is just my theory, so let me know in the comments if you have any others. Thank you very much for clicking on this video, and please hit that like button if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe for weekly videos about Star Trek and other sci-fi. Thanks again everyone, and I will see you next time on What Did I Miss?